Good evening, friends. Today we will be learning lifespan development, block 2, unit 4, that is identification of problems in school children and its remedial measures. Now you all know, right, that all of us are different. No two people, even if you have a best friend or something, even your best friend is different from you, right? Everybody is different. If you have a sibling, that sibling is different. Identical twins, unidentical twins are different. Similarly, all children are also different from each other in all the ways. Like say physical attributes, like some are short, some are tall, some are strong, some are weak, and also learning abilities. Some are quick learners, some are fast, like some are slow learners, because they take their own sweet time to learn things and understand. And also the differences in abilities among most children are small, right? Now we all are different, like all the children are different, and everybody has got some differences in the abilities. So that is filled by going to the educational institutions like schools. So whatever we lack, we learn from the schools. However, in case of exceptional children, the physical attributes and learning abilities are different from average or normal children, and they require a modification of school practices. So the school practices need to be modified according to the needs of exceptional children. Now, who is an exceptional child? A child who deviates from the average or normal child, who differs from the norm either above or below in physical attributes or learning ability to an extent that they need specialized educational services. Now, the exceptionality could be due to various reasons or various problems such as vision, hearing, perpetual motor movement related, communication, intelligence, or socio-emotional. Exceptionality has a positive dimension also, like say you could be a gifted or a talented child, and then also you will be called an exceptional child, and a negative dimension as well. For example, handicapped child, learning disability, behavioral problems, psychological problems, etc., etc. And there is another group of children referred as children at risk. What do you mean by children at risk? Now, what is risk? At risk refers to children who, although not currently identified as having a disability, but are still considered to have a greater than usual chance of developing one, which means though he is not considered as a disabled child, but then he still have got chances to be disabled due to various reasons such as his condition during birth or nurturing or environment. So we will be learning. I think there was a previous slide before this, another slide, right? So disability, what is disability in general? It is a disability is any medical condition that makes it more difficult for a person to do certain activities or effectively interact with the world around them. Now, disabilities could be various types. One is vision, hearing, thinking, learning, movement, mental health, remembering, communicating, and social relationships. So we will be learning them today in today's class. So first one is learning disability. Now, what is learning disability? It is a disorder that affects the ability to understand or use spoken or written language, do mathematical calculations, coordinate movements, or direct attention. This is also neurologically based processing problems. In simple terms, a learning disability results from a difference in the way a person's brain is wired. So the way a person's brain is wired is different in these children, with children, learning disabled children. Now, this difference affects how they receive and process information. The way they receive, the way they process, that is the way they encode or decode the information is different. Now, these processing problems can interfere with learning basic skills such as to read, that is dyslexia, write dysgraphia, and to solve mathematics, that is dyscalculia. Now, a learning disability is not a problem with intelligence or motivation. There is no issue with the intelligence. Now, children with learning disabilities aren't lazy also or dumb. You know, when some people would think, okay, they're lazy, they don't want to study. It's nothing like that. They are as smart as all of us are. And it can also affect an individual's life beyond academics. And in some cases, it affects many parts of person's existence, like school or work, to do daily routine work, family situations, the way they handle it, sometimes even with the friends and, while playing as well. So let us learn the characteristics of LD children, students. Okay, yeah, friends, this is very important thing. It has been repeated quite a number of times. So there are characteristics of LD children, that is learning disabled children. The first one is behavior and affective characteristics. First is hyperactivity, and the next is hypoactivity. What is hyperactivity now? It is an act which is impulsively overreact with intense and surprising emotions. Uh, this one I will be telling you in the further slide, because we have it again repetition, and this is also important. And I will also give you an example which I know a person who is very hyperactivity, and parents are not bothered. You tell, the teachers are telling that your child is hyperactivity, these are the remedial measures which to be taken, but parents are least bothered. Yes. Next is disorders of attention. Now, what is attention here? Ability to focus. Suppose I am teaching you right now, and if you people fail to pay attention, even if you try to pay attention and you can't, then you have disability. So better pay attention. Yeah, they have problem in sustaining attention for a longer time, even for a short duration. Then they are easily distracted, right? Somebody cracks a joke, you're easily distracted, and have short attention span as well. Next is perceptual motor impairment, which means they experience poor auditory, that is hearing, or visual discrimination. They have problems with auditory and visual. Then problems in directional orientation. They have difficulty in, getting to know the direction. Okay, which direction is this? Even I have that issue. Anyways, they also tend to be awkward, clumsy, or uncoordinated. They have poor handwriting as well. Who disorders of attention, children, perceptual motor impairment. Next is disorders of memory and thinking. It is related to memory. They have difficulty in acquiring new information or recall old ones. Suppose I'm teaching you something, and you're not able to understand, you're not able to acquire the information, you're not able to take it. And even if you have to recall, the child is not able to recall the previous ones also. So that is disorder of memory and thinking. And it could be again based on long-term or short-term memory as well. They have problem in organizing, categorizing, arranging, and planning will not be adequate. Next is specific academic problems. Now, LD children are often several years behind their peers. If you observe these children, when you compare with other children, they are usually left behind, because the things what are required, to be, as a normal children, these people are not able to perform, and they just lag behind somehow. Behind their peers in reading, comprehension, fluency and spelling, experience, word, letter, number, and sound reversals. And these are very important for the academics. Now, dyslexia. What is dyslexia? It is also an academic problem, right? It is characterized by serious reading problems. So children who has problem in reading, so they may have problems identifying words as well and understanding what they read. They are reading something, they don't understand what they are reading. Next is oral and written language difficulties. The problems include
Ritu, you have slides for that or? Okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So oral and written language difficulties. See, when you say oral and written, which means handwriting, the word itself says handwriting, right? Spelling, sentence structure, the way you form a sentence, and composition skills. Next is issues with mathematics. So these are actually very simple. So issues with mathematics, you can't calculate, the child cannot calculate with the numbers, they can't understand. They may have problems in recalling math facts as well, writing numbers legibly. You can't understand whatever the child is writing. Learning arithmetic concept is very difficult for them, and abstract math reasoning. Obviously, because they cannot even perform well in concrete. You can't even imagine they having to, use this abstract reasoning. Now, next is disorders of speech and learning speech sounds. They also, these children, they repeat sounds. They keep repeating whatever they hear. They stumble over words and have halting speech. That is, that they stop in speech. They're not fluent with it. They're like, very slow. And aphasia is an example for that. They speak only few words and they have to put really a lot of effort. And also difficulties in understanding pragmatic aspects of language, the practical aspect, they just can't understand. Show word finding difficulties. They also find, difficulty to even find the words also. Next is causes of learning disability. Now, what are the causes? Now, these are the things which we saw. These are the characteristics. Now, like, why is it caused in children? So numerous factors cause learning disabilities, and each of them affects different areas of the brain or centers of the brain. There is not single aspect, there is not single cause for learning disabled. Sometimes it could be more than one cause, which is entire, combining and causing a problem. Sometimes it could be just one specific problem. So let us learn one by one. First is brain injury. So there is a injury to the brain of the child. Now, due to various reasons, again, could be trauma, tumors, surgery. While performing a surgery on the child due to some reason, again, he would have had a brain injury, and cancers. So these also are the reasons that cause learning disabilities in the children. Next is genetic and hereditary, that is through inheritance, the child has inherited. Sometimes also due to, like, do you see the diseases, if you have ever seen some people that, they have this cancer, lung cancer, and they have never smoked in their life. They were not even passive smokers. They had good habits. In spite, they got cancer. Why? Because it was hereditary, right? So they got, even if their parents did not have, if the grandparents had, there are chances. Even any of the forefathers had, you still have chances of getting the disease. So that is genetic and hereditary factor, which affects learning. It is observed that a child whose parents have had a learning disability is likely to develop the same disorders very much. Problems during pregnancy and birth. If the mother also had certain problems during pregnancy and birth, so that also causes, for example, say lack of oxygen, drug and alcohol use during pregnancy. If the mother consumed a lot of alcohol or drugs during pregnancy and premature or prolonged labor. So if the child was born, before the time, or the labor, lasted for a very long time, so that also causes disability in the child. Then incidence after birth. Now, what is incidence after the birth? So the child is already born, so he might have some head injuries due to some reasons, or nutritional deprivation. He did not get the good nutrition, and exposure to toxic substances. He was exposed to toxic substances like lead, which also contributed to learning disabilities. Next is environment. Poor learning environment. If the child has got a poor learning environment, like unstable families, disadvantaged environments, like they could not afford. So again, there is a problem, and faulty school instruction responsible for learning disability. Next is biochemical abnormalities. Now, scientists once believed that all the learning disabilities were caused by a single neurological problem. However, that is not the case. Now, chemicals also play an important role in brain activity, controlling and releasing electrical impulses between neurons, right? So the absence or excessive, so it should be right proportion, but the absence or excessive presence of biochemical substances can cause learning disability. And research also indicates that in about 50% of children, there appears to be differences in the wiring of the brain, where subtle disturbances in the structures and functions of the brain are present. Next, let us see how do you identify the learning disabled children. So identification process of learning disability. First is observation by parents or teachers. Of course, if the parents are teaching these days, parents before the child goes to the school only starts preparing them for the school. So the parents also can observe the child, and that's the best thing because the treatment could be provided at least to an extent. The next is children. Most of the time, all these learning disabilities, because it is related to academics, learning disabilities, most of the children learn in school, not at home, right? So it is mostly identified in the school setting only. Next is medical examination, which also includes a neurological exam. So if the teacher finds out, if she has a doubt, if she notices certain symptoms, she also tells the parents about it, and they get the neurological examination done to identify or rule out whatever possibilities, whatever symptoms, or they thought that the child has, including emotional disorders, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and brain diseases. And also exploration of the child's development. So the child is exploring, so the child's development, it's like you're just observing it, be it social or school performance or peer group or anything. A discussion of family history. So if the teacher happens to find out that there are some symptoms, she also happens to talk to the parents and take, if the parents or grandparents or anybody in the family also had certain issues, so that also would help. History would always help, in a better treatment. Next is achievement test. So there are different achievement tests through which we can identify if the child is learning disabled or not, right? Which could be teacher made test or any kind of test. Yeah, so these are the tests for assessment and identification of LD in children. So see, there are Wechsler's intelligence scale for children, which assesses the cognitive abilities. Then Woodcock-Johnson's psychoeducational battery revised, which is responsible for assessment of achievement in reading, writing, and mathematics by the age and grade level, according to the age and grades. Then is the next is Bygrand's diagnostic inventory of basic skills, which is again for the assessment of a variety of skill sequences in readiness, reading, language, arts, and math. So these are the various tests through which also helps in identifying if the child is learning disabled or not. So the next is remedial program for learning disabilities. Now, the teacher or the parents or both of them together have found out that, okay, now the child is learning disabled. Now, what do they do next? How do they treat? At least to an extent or maybe completely identified earlier. So the first one is individualized educational program. What is it? It aims to reinforce the foundation of learning. It should include short-term and long-term teaching objectives, learning steps, activities, and reviews to ensure that the program is implemented effectively. Like for say, now we have this, like when we are studying in the class also, we have the short-term goals and long-term goals. Now short-term goals are we are finishing one unit after the other, right? What is long-term goal? To finish the entire subject, to finish the entire syllabus, right? To reach the end goal, that is exam. So similarly, so first there need to be an individualized educational program for such children, that first they should meet the short-term goals. Once that is met, they can move forward and it can be taken care of. The next is direct instruction. Now this is a highly structured and organized teaching strategy which is started after the analysis of learning problems with specific learning. So now the problem here is only with the specific learning. Feedback and corrections are used and are shown to affect children's participation and performance positivity. So here the feedbacks and corrections are used. So the children is identified, and you also give him some exams. Now exams could not be just written; it could be in any form, right? According to the what kind of child, like what disability does he has, right? Accordingly, they can give the exams. Again, feedback could be taken. Feedback could also be taken from the peers, from other teachers or parents as well. And as and when the feedback is taken, corrections could be made. Next is cognitive instruction. What is cognitive instruction? It emphasizes, it gives a weightage on attending, responding, rehearsing, that is repeating, recalling, and transferring information to the memory. So now some information of the child has to learn certain concepts. The child has to be attentive, right? He needs to be a little responding. He needs to respond. He needs to repeat. He needs to recall the information and then transfer to the memory. The next is multisensory instructional strategy. It also highlights learning by seeing. See, multisensory. Multisensory means you're using all your sense organs, right? So by seeing, hearing, touching, movement, etc. By visual thing, it could be pictorial or diagram or something like that, that is seeing. Then hearing, it could be by playing certain notes or something, if the child is auditory impairment or something. So similarly, and if the child is visually impaired, then by touching, braille and other things. So next is study skill training or metacognitive skills. Now this assists students in learning how to take notes and tests, prepare compositions, and remember to bring necessary materials. So skill training is also given. Suppose some activity has to be conducted, some exam has to be conducted. So the children is taught how to take notes and test, how to write the test, how to write the notes, how to make compositions, and how to remember to bring necessary materials. Because if they have issues with the memory, they might forget. So they are also taught how to remember to bring the materials instructed by the teachers. Next is social skill training. Social skill, see, you understand by social, which means dealing with other people, right? That could be parents, peers, anybody. It is used to help children in getting along with peers and adults in various settings and circumstances. Through it could be done through activities, play, lot of stuffs like that, group plays. Next is inclusion strategies. Now, inclusion is a very interesting concept. If you see that for the past couple of years or few years, government has made this an attempt. They have instructed the schools for this inclusive education. So also to with along with the normal children, there is a certain percentage of children. If they want to study it in normal school, they can study, and the school cannot say no. And there are a lot of advantages of learning with normal children. Let's see how. So inclusive strategies are the provisions by state and national authorities that students with learning disabilities should be educated with non-disabled children of their age. Additional instructional resources can be used for children with LD while teaching them in a general classroom. So only for those children, certain extra things could be used. That is not an issue. It will be helpful for other students as well. They'll get to learn a lot of things. Then teachers also can make effort and adapt, the different methods and improve themselves and teach the children. And not only that, see what happens with inclusion. Most of the time, it is a class teacher who knows each and every student, who understands all the children without any bias. She basically is like no less than a parent to the child. Class teachers are like that. So the class teacher mostly observes, but all the time one teacher cannot be in one class, right? She has to move from class to class. So she can also instruct all other subject teachers also, to take care of the child because he has these issues. This is how you should be teaching. All the teachers can come together and, take an initiative like that. And not only that, when you include the child with the normal children, So you can take some other children in confidence, teach them, that in the other teacher's absence, or if somebody is not around, they can also take care, they can also assist the person, the child when in need. So some other children also could be trained to an extent. Yeah, next is therapy. Now, depending on the learning disorder, some children might benefit from therapy. Some children, yes. For example, speech therapy can help children who have language disabilities. Occupational therapy might help improve the motor skills of a child who has writing problems. Uh, like for example, you say music therapy is also very effective, dance therapy, swimming, sports, etc. In case of hyperactive children, ADHD children, these are the best therapies. Next is complementary. That again includes a lot of other therapies like art therapy, again music therapies. Next is peer mediated instruction and computer assisted instruction. Now you may think that how could a child who is a disabled child use computer? How will that assist? So peer mediated instruction and computer assisted instruction are the other methods used. They are used. It takes time to learn new processing skills and to master new learning strategies. So for all these methods to be adequately implemented, so all the methods, if they have to be adequately implemented, it is extremely important that the classroom teacher and school psychologist should be sensitive to the problems and needs of such children and provide appropriate educational settings to LD children. Now, parents and experts need to set goals and assess if the child is improving, because you need to check on the improvement. If there is no improvement, you can adopt another method, and if there is improvement, you can continue with the same improvement that is already happening with the selected mode of intervention and support. So feedback by parents also could be provided, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and even peers can provide the feedback. Even other teachers also can provide the feedback. Next, we move to mental retardation. Mental retardation. What is mental retardation? It is an intellectual disability. Intellectual, right? When you say about your brain, you say if you're intelligent or not, right? Intellectual disability. It is a developmental problem which occurs during the development period, that is gestation through age 18 years, that is 0 to 18 years. That is only like before you just start your adulthood, right? So it occurs between 0 to 18 years. And this is present in about 2 to 3% of the population, entire population, not just Indian population or any other countries. And it is also more common in boys than girls. I don't know how. Yeah, and there are 4 levels of mental retardation, that is mild, moderate, severe, and profound. Some people can have mild, and it could also be taken care, These levels are determined by performance on standardized IQ test. And causes of mental retardation are numerous and include genetic, that is DNA, and environmental factors. It is believed that behavioral or societal factors such as poverty, malnutrition, maternal drug and alcohol use, that is if the mother was pregnant and she used alcohol and drugs, that also causes mental retardation, as well as severe stimulus deprivation can contribute to mental retardation. So there are certain factors like genetic factors, like I told you, hereditary. Second is pregnancy and birth factors, right? If the mother used excessive alcohol. Next is infancy and childhood. Infections and brain injuries, brain trauma, etc. Then unknown factors. There are many factors which they are still discovering. Yeah, then how do you identify mentally retarded children? How? So you interview the parents, like most of the identification process is same. Again, parents, teachers, and there is a psychologist, and there are certain tests. So interviewing the parents. So these then observation of the child. The teacher tends to observe the child. Then testing of intelligence and adaptive behaviors. Why intelligence? Because this is an intellectual disorder. So a child is considered mentally retarded if he or she has deficit in both IQ and adaptive behaviors also. She can't adapt any other things, and also she has issue with the IQ also. If only one or the other is present, if she has issue only with the behavior or IQ, just one of them, then the child is not considered mentally retarded. Otherwise, if the child has both, then he or she is mentally retarded. Now there are certain tests also like Stanford Binet Intelligence Scale, the revised Wechsler Intelligence Scale for children, then Kaufman Assessment Battery for children, the Wineland Adaptive Behavior Scale, the Adaptive Behavior Scale public school version. So these are certain other tests through which you identify if the child is mentally retarded or not. They also provide an assessment of your, the child's daily living skills and social abilities when compared to other children. Obviously, if the child is at your home, why do parents fail to identify if the child has an issue or not? Because the child is staying only with them and the parents are not seeing any other children, right? But when the child goes to the school, what happens? A teacher is seeing a lot of children, right? So if one child behaves differently or he does different things, a lot of things, it is very easy to identify, no, because you can compare. The parents can't compare because they have got only one child or two children, so they can't compare with anybody. Next, remedial measures for mentally retarded children. So early intervention programs, which focuses on providing guidance for families, obviously like certain programs early, you need to intervene early. And they also provide guidance to the families who provides. If you consult a psychologist, they also get to know. The teacher also informs, right? So that actually, in like if you inform the parents early, then the problem could be taken care of. And preschool program. So when the child joins the school, then again it could be taken care of. Regular classroom programs provide individualized academic and interaction with non-disabled peers. See, when the mentally retarded children interact with other people, they actually improve. They improve in a lot of other things also. They get to learn to be socialized. They also learn academic skills. Then resource room programs, they are provided for remedial help to some students. So for these kind of children, no, they have different kinds of programs, some special educators as well, or the same teacher is trained in these kind of abilities. Self-contained classroom program, it is provided to moderate and severely retarded children as a segregated classroom. Suppose if the child, if see, like I told you again, there are mild to profound cases. So in mild cases, you do not need extra too many things. But if the child has little moderate or severe mental retardation, then definitely they need a different setting. The teacher really need to be a trained special educator. Next, effective teaching strategies. Now, what teaching strategies can a teacher adopt? A teacher can use instructional programs. The focus on curriculum should be functional tasks like, which she can include the science for one student and section of newspaper for another one. Like I told you, it differs, right? All the mentally retarded children do not have the same issue. They will have different kinds of issues again. The teacher must have the knowledge of each student's ability. The teacher must structure learning situation and reduce distraction in the class. So it should be well organized. The teacher must present material clearly so that the child doesn't get confused. The teacher should encourage the student to make further effort and re-evaluate the program. See, sometimes the children happen to laugh at them, but then the teacher should encourage, and the peers also need to support. So teacher has to talk to other children as well. Next, attention deficit, that is hyperactivity, like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Next slide. Yeah, that is ADHD. Like I told you in the beginning, that that is hyperactivity and hypoactivity, which we will be learning in detail. So we'll be learning it now. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder of childhood. It is first diagnosed in childhood and often lasts into adulthood. Children with ADHD may have trouble paying attention because it is attention deficit, controlling impulsive behaviors. So they have this, extreme behaviors which may act without thinking about what the result will be, or be overly active. So they act without thinking. They don't even think afterwards. And it is more common in boys than girls, like I told you. And ADHD can continue into adulthood again. It is viewed as a result of medical disorder rather than a pure behavioral problem. So it is not a behavioral issue. It is not a psychological issue. Basically, it is a uh, it is a medical disorder. And let us look at the symptoms of ADHD. Now they have trouble paying attention, hyperactive children, they just can't sit in one place. Now I know this child, he's my friend's sister's son. And this person, I've been observing him for the past 4 years. I informed his parents also that the child is like this, but the parents did nothing about it. Say, if you ask the child, to pay attention, if you're teaching them or anything, the child is not paying attention, and he also acts as if he's paying attention, but he's not paying attention. So trouble sitting still even for a short time, even for 5 minutes you ask him to sit, even that is a problem for them. They just can't. Acting before thinking, like I told you, they don't even think afterwards as well. So daydreaming a lot, most of the time they are daydreaming. Forget or lose things a lot, yes, absolutely, I've seen this also. So most of the time he used to leave his books in the schools only and come homework books. Initially we thought, okay, maybe he don't want to do the homework, so that is a trick, because children can do anything, right? They can go to any extent, because these days children are not in some children are not interested initially. So we thought no, but that's not the issue. And they talk too much, yes, but others also talk too much, including me. Make careless mistakes, take unnecessary risk which is not required, which can actually cause harm to them and others as well, yes, which he also does. He would do anything. I can't even tell you certain incidences. Have a hard time resisting temptation. If they want something, they just want. If you ask them, keep a cake in front of him and just ask him to wait for 2 minutes, I'll just be back, and the cake is fully messy. Yeah. Have trouble taking turns. If you ask the child in the classroom, wait, your turn will come to answer, but no, the child wants to do whatever the child wants to do. Have difficulty getting along with others, yes. They do not really like and interacting much also, and they also have issues with it. Next. So how do you manage this kind of children? One is through medication, which medications actually can reduce to an extent whatever the issue is, and they also learn how to focus on work and learn certain things. Then healthy eating habits as well, which is not mentioned here, but yes, if the child is given proper nutritional food, no, it really helps them. And even sleep, if the child really needs to relax, so good sleep, sound sleep is very important for the child. Next is special education. So the teacher needs to find out, okay, the children has this issue, the child has this issue, now what could be done? The teacher also needs to talk to the parents. And even in the classroom, the teacher can, you know make the classroom very interesting for the child, so that he pays attention, or some changes could be made. Next is psychotherapy, that is counseling. The child can also be counseled, which is very important, because counseling is very important these days, even for the normal children. So through counseling also, the child will improve. Then social skills. Now, suppose some children don't like studying, but everybody loves to play. So involve such children, in different group activities and lot of things. So the child will learn at least social skills. They start listening to their classmates as well. Next is behavior modification. Again, that could be done with the help of the counselor or a psychologist. Next is parent education and training, which is very important. Before you counsel the child, you need to counsel the parents. You should know what the parent think about it. Even the parents should be ready to first accept that the child has a problem, and yes, they have a problem. Now they should solve the problem. At least they should try solving rather than being ignorant all the time. Next.
Ritu, before we move on, I have a doubt. If anybody can help me with this, please do. So, if I come across a child with ADHD, and suppose he's not sitting in one place, as you said, he's not able to concentrate and all that, does exercise help this guy get settled a little more? That
Yes.
means tiring him out completely. Will it help with the ADHD?
Tiring is, see, he's all the time active, Vasudha. Most of the time he's active, but he doesn't sit, right? He doesn't sit in one place. So he's active. He's tired also. But he needs some exercise, yoga, meditation also,
Okay.
which will bring all these, symptoms little down, which will, he will be in control. Because he's all the time tired. No, he's never sitting at one place.
Okay. So meditation, yoga, and properly
Definitely.
systemized exercise can help.
Yes, yes. And all the things, whatever I mentioned, everything has to happen, not just one thing, not just social skill, not just parents. So there should be coordination. Only
Yeah.
then the child improves.
No, because the person I came across is not of a position to go to a counselor or to go for medication. Their socio-economic status is low. So what do I
Okay.
do then?
Then
Vasudha,
one thing is,
Yeah.
yeah, this is Nimmi. See,
Yes,
when I
Nimi.
was teaching, I had this child who was really hyperactive, and he used to literally throw the chair and everything in the class. So it was very
Oh God.
difficult to get him. Yeah, and he used to spit on the face also. So it
I'm
was really
sorry.
difficult to handle, such children. But I mean, the suggestion that we got from his parents were, of course, exercise and tiring him a little bit, and of course you need to maintain eye contact when you talk with him. So when you maintain
Okay.
eye contact, what happens is they tend to listen to you, and it worked with us. It worked for me. He kind of went back, and he used to literally get back to his seat and sit in one place and listen to us. So that was
Okay.
one thing that I got from what I learned there. So
Okay.
okay.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
thank you
Nimi.
so much for the example. And I have another example, yeah, which is very recent. So when I was a teacher, so there's this student called Pratyush. So he was already, the previous school already gave him a TC because he had this issue. Because not everybody can identify what the issue is. They just feel the child is naughty and just remove the child from the school. So that's what happened to the child. So he joined in the middle of the session. Okay, so he joined, and I happened to be a class teacher for that class, entire class. And then from the time I joined, for 2-3 months I only heard that this Pratyush is the class teacher kaun hai, you know he's the
yeah.
worst child, this is the worst class, this, because that one child is more than enough to create a chaos in an entire class. You won't believe it. he he hit almost 99% of the children in the entire school. He would go to the washroom and hit there also his seniors. Now I cannot go to the washroom and check on him, right? At least in my class I can check on him. And what I used to do, I used to change his place almost every week, so that at least let him get comfortable with one child, let him be friend with everybody. That was not working. I tried doing everything. Then one fine day, he actually they were playing like they were in this PT session then, and I was on a break. So I was in the staff room. Suddenly somebody came and called me. They're like, ma'am, principal is calling you, because now this child fractured one person's hand. And there was no fight, they were not even standing next to each other. I don't know what happens to them. Okay, it's like bas jaake marna hai kisi ko. Okay, and he hit the child, hand got fractured. We had to call that person's parents. We had to call both the parents, actually both the children's parents. And luckily the other person's whose hand was fractured, his mom had happened to be a teacher, and she actually was very good. Yeah, like she understood, she understand that school hai hota hai and all that. So she was like, okay, kuch nahi karna hai. Otherwise there are some people, they go to any extent, like there are parents, because absolutely they want to protect their children, no? Yeah. uh, yeah, so this happened. We had to, me, principal, coordinator, and his parents, we were talking, and then we actually found out there are some issues in the families as well. And that is also one reason. And that is actually very bad, because most of the time families are ignorant. They are so busy in their lives, and then finally we thought, okay, now this child has lot of energy, let us do something. So we asked his parents, like, what does he like? It's like, okay, this fellow likes swimming, it seems. We thought of putting him into some class. For last year he's been telling, but we didn't put him. Like, okay, fine, sir, this is the right time. Putting him to swimming classes. And not only that, our principal also gave him some counselor's number, which really helped. And within 1 month, I saw the changes when he came from the vacations, Dashara vacations and everything, like entire 1 month. And this person is changed, and he is behaving little better, and he listens to whatever I say. He stopped lying. Initially, he used to even lie. So there are a lot of things, but you need to identify it. Parents also need to be identify, because parents are the first people. Parents are the ones who spend maximum time. So they need to always observe and monitor what the child is doing. They should not leave everything on the teacher. Okay, ठीक है, हम लोग pay कर दिए, हाँ, best tuition में डालते हैं, best school में डालते हैं. So that is what is happening with my friends nephew. They are rich enough, they can afford anything, but then they're not bothered because they are busy in their lives. And that is a
I
sad
think
reality.
that's also because they're so adamant to the fact that नहीं मेरा बच्चा तो ठीक है, ये कुछ भी कह रहे हैं. They do not want to accept the fact, right? It is one of the
Exactly.
most common things in India that is still there. The taboo, the stigma is still there. मतलब कोई भी mental disorder हो या फिर learning disorder हो, मानने के लिए तैयार ही नहीं है.
Exactly. And how will it is bad for the child, no? You can't do anything. Usse zyada, what can you do as a teacher? You can't take the child and you will be like, हाँ ठीक है, I will take it to the counselor. Parents also needs to be there. Okay, anyways, let us just move on. This already, I think, okay. So yeah, see, now, okay, let me do one thing. Since we have, less time, I'll just go through it quickly. And only the last part is again important. That is gifted and talented children. We'll focus there more. Yeah. So yeah, next is orthopedically handicapped. Orthopedics, what does it mean? Muscle and bone disabilities in childhood. Now again, it could be, it could be, these problems could be again from birth also. That is premature birth. If the child was born before the time, they're not getting enough blood, oxygen or nutrients before or during birth. A serious head injury to the child, again, that also causes. So the damage to the brain is permanent and it can not be cured, but it is not progressive, which means if the child has some damage, now the damage is not going to increase. It is going to be stable. It is going to be constant. So it does not get worse with age or time. Further, it does not necessarily affect intelligence or cognitive ability. There is no issue with the cognitive or intelligence ability as well. And the cerebral palsy is also one such example. And I was searching for the pictures actually. During my BEd, we had been to a rehab. It was for cerebral palsy people only. We spent an entire day with them, and it was a different experience for me. Because you know what, when we are just in our lives, our family, our friends, no, we don't know the world. We think bas dunya itni hai, but no. If you really want to learn reality, no, you have to meet different kinds of people. Only then you get to know, okay, this is how it is. This is not, so sirf ghar dunya nahi hai. Yeah, so again, cerebral palsy is classified by the type of location of movement problems. So where the, exactly in the brain the problem is. And there are also different levels of severity. It could be mild, moderate, severe, profound. So the first one is spastic, that is caused by damage to the brain's motor cortex. And it is lack of control of muscles. So muscles are not in control. The previous slide. Yeah. And the symptoms include stiff, exaggerated movements, awkward reflexes also. You can see the picture of that girl or a boy, I don't know the gender here. So the way it is standing, see, the child is not aware of the way it is standing, okay. And hand movements are also not fine. It is very stiff. And I have actually seen this, I have witnessed this. Next is athetoid. I don't know how to they pronounce. I tried to see the pronunciation. They pronounce in two different ways. So it is a movement dysfunction. So dysfunction in the movement of the person, of the child, and it is caused by injury to the brain's basal ganglia, which controls balance and coordination. And it also leads to involuntary and uncontrolled movements. So the movement is not in control, and they have problems with postures as well. They don't know the way they are walking. And next is ataxic. It is caused by damage to the cerebellum, which is the part of the brain that connects to the spine. And how do you identify it? Characterized by lack of coordination and balance, and difficulty in speaking as well. The child cannot speak clearly. Next is mixed. It is caused in motor cortex damage, basal ganglia damage, and cerebellum damage. So see, it is mixed kind of damages in different parts of the brain, and it exhibits symptoms of more than one type of cerebral palsy. So if one person can have it, he or she can exhibit one issue or two issues or mixed issues. And you know what, even if they pass urine, no, they don't know, they're not aware that they want to go to loo. They just can't say that they want to pee, at least most of them in severe cases. And there are also these okay, next slide. Yeah. Okay, so what is cerebral palsy? I forgot to tell the meaning. Okay, it is most common motor disability in childhood. It is a medical condition usually caused by brain damage before or at birth that causes the loss of control of the arms and legs. So like I was telling you, the child is not able to say that the child wants to pass urine. And if the child could be of any age. Now the center where I went, no, they were the maximum age limit, like not limit, there was one lady who was 65-year-old. So there was a child of 5-year-old, then there was a lady of 65-year-old, but she's still a child. Again, you know, and the 5-year-old child, actually, he belonged to a very rich family. But then just because the child was born like that, his father divorced his mom. So now these children every day, morning they leave their home, like there are vehicles to pick them up or the personal vehicles, and most of the family, you know, they were actually good, like they were not poor families or something, but then bimari bol ke nahi aati hai, right? So you know, the school van would pick them up, and there would be food in the school, or sometimes the parents also send. There are a lot of activities. There are special educators as well. The caretakers are really good all the time, 24/7. They are there, like whenever you need. And there were also therapies happening, like if the child has some issues with the movement, again, you know, there are therapies based on that. Again, speech therapies also happen there, because those children have issues with the speech also, they cannot articulate. Next. Next is hearing impairment. I think most of us know what it is. It is a disorder in any part of the auditory system, right? Hearing, which affects the hearing ability and thus affecting the speech and communication ability. Now, teachers need to make special consideration while teaching hearing impaired children. So, what are the considerations? Let us learn when you teach these children. Next. Yeah. So what is the role the teacher plays in teaching these children? So the child should be seated as close as possible to the teacher. And this happens in both the case of hearing as well as visual impairment. Face the student. Who should face the student? The teacher should face the student. And the teacher should not speak facing the blackboard, because it'll be a little difficult, because it's like a distance, you know. So the teacher should always face the child and speak to him, and use videotapes and films with captioning. So these days, I think most of them are even making movies, you know, when you see in the movies also, there's always captioning. Try to offer books and written materials so that they can see, right? Written materials as often as possible. And if using sign language, and you should also wear, you know, clothing that contrast with your skin color. I don't know the reason. Use simple words and sentences along
That
with.
is because when you're using your hand gestures, no, the hand gestures should be clear enough to the child. The sign language should be clear enough to the child. So if you're wearing something similar to your own skin tone, it is not visible to the child.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Vasudha, for the information.
No problem.
Then use simple words and sentences along with gestures or pictures to help the child understand what you're saying. So you should not use some Greek and Latin. You should use basic layman language. Next. Visual impairments, again, that is related to seeing. A vision impairment refers to when one loses a bit of ability or hold to see. Like it could be partial impairment or it could be complete impairment. The blind students may have severely impaired vision. They must be taught to read by Braille lipi, and an embossed reading system which allows blind or visually impaired students to read using their fingers. Partially sighted can see magnifying glass to read, print, or they can also use books with larger print. So the people who who can't see at all, they can use Braille lipi. But people who can see partially, they can use magnifying glass, or also they can read print, or the books which has larger prints. Next. Now, what is the role of the teacher here? What does a teacher play? Like, what kind of a role does a teacher play here? So teachers should eliminate the clutter in the classroom so that the students can move freely. Obviously, because the child cannot see, the child in a classroom cannot have a lot of things kept here and there. No, otherwise the child might fall or he might get hurt. Allow visually impaired students to use computers with speech synthesizer. Braille printer also can be useful for proofreading. Next, teacher should learn some Braille as well, If the child gets stuck or something, she can also assist him. Other students can also read assignments for visually impaired students. They can read the assignments. Recognize that some vocabulary words mean nothing to these students who has never seen them. Use large print with lots of contrast, such as black letters. Like you should use large prints, at least for partially visually impaired children. So if you use big letters or something, it is visible, right? In the slides also you see, normal people also, it is very blurry or something, we find it difficult to see. So you can imagine about them. So they can use these black letters on yellow paper for partially blind students. Next. So needs of students with visual impairment. So what are their needs here? What are needs of these students with visual impairment? One is concept development and academic skills, right? They also need as much as we other children need. Communication skills, again, that is the need. Social emotional skills, all these skills, these needs are again for non-Braille or any children. Sensory motor skills, orientation, mobility skills, daily living skills, because it is required for them. In fact, special training needs to be given to them, how they can take care of themselves. Career and vocational skills, like, you say if one thing is taken, from you, then some other sense organ or other thing becomes much more stronger. So in something in which they are stronger, so vocational training, vocational skill could be provided to these children, which will be helpful for their career. And there are many people, many examples, which right now I cannot recall of them. But then there are people who are blind and they are very successful. They have done wonders. There are people who can't hear, but they are great again. They have done wonders. If one person wants to do, they can do anything. Like brain is very powerful. We just need to use it. Next. Gifted and talented children, this is a very important question. It is repeated a couple of times. Now, these are those whose potential is distinctively above average, not below average, in one or more of the following domains. So sometimes they are good at one thing or two things or more than that also. In following domains of human ability, like it could be intellectual, his intellectual ability could be like great, or he could be creative, social, and physical as well. Gifted children are those who demonstrate achievement or potential in any of the following areas, singly or in combination, which means they could be good in one or good in more than that. Next. So yeah, like I told you, now the child could be, good in a lot of things. How do you identify, first of all, that the child is a talented child or a gifted child? So there is this general intellectual ability, that is high IQ or achievement test scores. So when the test is given or something, he outperforms everybody, or he writes differently because he thinks differently, encodes differently, he decodes differently. In specific academic aptitude test, again, he performs excellence in, certain subject areas such as mathematics or science. It could be other things also, not just mathematics that is related to only intellectual. Again, ability to discover new things and find new alternatives. They don't always accept whatever the teachers also say. They'll be like, no, ma'am, this is what I saw, ma'am. This is how it is. Can't this be like this? And I have actually seen a couple of children in my class too. And they also have that ability to look life in new ways, not just life. If you give them a sum, if you just tell them a story, they always, see the same thing in a different way, in their own way, very beautiful way. And then you also happen, you can't disagree. You'll be like, Arey, haan na, aisa bhi ho sakta hai. You're right. And the ability to help solve problems. They can solve any problems. They can adapt to, any situations, like we learned in previous classes in cognitive psychology. Then they are great, the good in arts, music, dance, drama, and any other things or any other discipline. They're excellent in sports as well. Yeah, next, role of the teacher. Teacher should readably provide resource materials like reference books and computers. See, sometimes these gifted children know, if you just teach them whatever you're teaching other children, it's like, ye kya hai, ma'am, I already know this. What do I do now? So the teacher should make sure that she, at least if she is not providing, she should tell the parents to either buy them a book, or they can also refer the library, so that they can learn more and more, because they easily tend to get bored in the class. They should allow students to express their interest in the subject being taught in the class. So if they're interested in some subject, they should be able to, the teacher should allow them to express their ideas freely. Then students who have done extra research should be allowed to display it to others. So there are some students, they'll go out of the way, and it's like you give them a homework. So everybody has done it. The child has also done it, but he's done it two, three different ways also. He'll be like, ma'am, I've done it in this way also. So you should give them chance to explore. And divergent thinkers, that is different thing. The way they think differently in different possible ways. They should be allowed to speak and add to the class discussion. Then guide them to find more information. Next. Yeah, then, yeah. Okay, so guest speakers may be called sometimes, to that will be really good. And these days, like this TED Talks, Josh Talks, and all this is happening, right? So, you can tell the parents of the child that, ask the child to watch all these things, or because absolutely due to COVID, they can't call, they can't invite like this. But yeah, they can invite like how we people are inviting different people from different disciplines in our class. Then praise and encourage novel ideas, that is new ideas and ways of completing assignments. So new ideas should always be praised, appreciated. Then students can also be allowed to go to advanced classes. Yes, and it has happened to a lot of people. So if you are, great, like if you have performed really well and you're doing, that regularly all the time, in every class you're doing it. So you're in grade 3. Sometimes your teacher itself says कि अरे यार ये तो बच्चा हम इसके लायक नहीं है. Sometimes it's not that ये बच्चा इस class के लायक नहीं है. So इसको promote कर देते हैं in a higher class, double promotion. So instead of going to 4th, the child can go to 5th also, because he'll get bored, right? Otherwise, yeah. Next. Arrange the reading materials in the libraries, yeah, which he can use, because he always wants extra. He always wants to do, he wants to learn more and more. Whatever you provide is never sufficient for him. Provide training to artistic talents like music and painting and other aspects as well. So if he's good in all these things, you can also refer, or you can also provide in your school setting as well. Ensure that the gifted and talented student has a firm grasp of the core material as well as the enrichment curriculum. Next. Yeah, so we learned about the exceptional child in today's class. Exceptional children are, again, not normal children. Sometimes they could be gifted children, or sometimes they are physically impaired or in a different ways. And disability, what disabilities, what is learning disabilities, then characteristics of learning disabilities, how do you identify and what are the causes why these disabilities are caused, and how do you identify the disabled children, then what are the tests that could be used. Next, remedial programs, what are the remedial programs that could be provided by the teacher, to the child, and take the help of parents as well. Next, mental retardation, that mental retardation is all about intellectual disability again. And how to identify these children and what are the remedial measures that you can provide for these children. And effective teaching strategies again. Then ADHD, like I told you, hyperactivity and hypoactivity, these children, what are the symptoms, like they always daydream, over talking, a lot of things, right? And how do you manage them? So you manage their energy through different ways, through dance, music, good food, nutritious food, lot of things. And orthopedically handicapped, that is related to muscle and bones. Then hearing impairments, they can't hear, either partial or complete hearing loss. Role of the teacher, so what role, how can she help in the classroom, right? Whether she can make the students sit very close to him so that he can hear, and a lot of other help again. Visual impairment, by using braille and all of things the child can learn. And role of the teacher there again. Then needs of students with visual impairment, so what are the needs of the students we learned in today's class. Then gifted and talented children, right? Now gifted and talented children are also exceptional children, and what is the role of the teacher here? Now these children tend to get bored easily, so how can a teacher keep the child in the classroom, because he immediately, he quickly grasps everything and he's like, ma'am, I know this. Now what do I do next? The teacher help the child not get bored. Thank you so much.